All right, welcome back to the fifth episode of the Herm Cet Show, a weekly basketball podcast where we talk everything, including news, updates, and hot takes. We're in the dead of the off season, but today we're talking about breakout players for next season, going with every position, going from guards to wings to bigs, and then we're going to talk about Christian Wood because we love that man.
We love Christian Wood.
Yeah, I'm Nate Herman, and I'm joined by my boy Ethan Seton. E, how are you doing?
I'm doing great right now.
Uh-huh.
There's nothing more boring than the dead of the NBA offseason when
Yes,
the
sir.
only thing that's on is the WNBA.
Brittany
But we're not
Griner.
going to get into that. No, thank you.
No.
Anyways, basketball, men's basketball, and the NBA action.
Okay. You want to start? We'll start. We'll start with point guards. I'll take us. I want to start with Cade. I think Cade is a guy who's going to be if not an all-star next season, I think he's going to be a near all-star. Is a guy who was putting up about 20 points per game before he got injured at the start of last season. Has kind of struggled from downtown. He's not an elite shooter. That's not exactly his specialty. But he joins a team that I think they've kind of built to help support his strengths. The shooting there isn't great at every position, but they have some guys that I think can help them. They added Joe Harris this summer, and I think Cade Cunningham, with a long season of rehabilitation and just kind of working on his body, I think he's good to go. And the Pistons could even be a little better than people might expect.
Yeah, I really like Cade. I
Mhm.
think from the little that we've seen Cade,
Yep.
we've seen great things. And, when I think of Cade Cunningham, I think of that one Instagram live that he had. And there was, he was being, he was doing interviews with fans. And then that one fan said, I can't quote this, but, he was laying down, showing his feet to Cade.
Mm-hmm.
And Cade forever, has changed from that moment. And
Never the same.
I think that, he's not the same anymore because, you know what, he took that personally. And I think we're going to see Cade take this next season personally.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that he's going to be an all-star. He's going to be one of the, bottom-end all-stars this upcoming year. And I think the Pistons might sneak into a top 10 seed in the East.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to benefit from the talent pool in the East being a little weaker. If you look comparatively at the conferences, the West is pretty clearly better at this point. The West is kind of stacked, especially at the guard spot. He wouldn't be making it out there, but in the East, I think he has a real chance. Let's shift to the first guy that you want to talk about, your breakout point guard.
My breakout point guard, you said the East is a little weaker.
Yep.
And, in some areas, it's a little weaker,
Mm-hmm.
but not when I go down to Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And I think about Tyus Jones getting his chance. I think Tyus Jones is getting the realest shot out of any player in the league to prove himself. For years, he flashed back to his Duke championship. I believe it was in 2015. He won the championship at Duke.
Yeah.
He was like the 27th overall pick for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He was on the bench in Minnesota. Coming off the bench in Memphis, he had one of the best assist to turnover ratios in the NBA.
Yep.
But now, Tyus Jones gets a starting point guard spot and will run the floor with Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma, and he will light up Washington, D.C. with wins, and the entire city of Washington, D.C. will be delighted with how well he is going to play this upcoming season. I think, if all goes well, I think an NBA championship is in the future for Washington.
Washington is back.
With how Washington's back now that Tyus Jones is the starting point guard.
On a more serious note with Tyus Jones, I think he's kind of underrated. I think he's been underrated for a long time. Is just one of the best calming presences I think you're going to have at point guard. He's not going to hijack the offense. He's going to help everyone else around him. The Grizzlies in 2022 were 21-7 without Ja Morant, and that was because of how good Tyus Jones was as their starting point guard. He did a great job, and he has been good for years now as a backup point guard. He's going to get a chance to be the lead point guard in Washington. And let's not kid ourselves. The Wizards aren't going to be good. It's pretty clear the Wizards are not a good team. But Tyus Jones is going to help. Is going to help make them better
Jordan
than
Poole
people might
revenge
think.
tour.
The Wizards could be like a Jazz type of team from this year, where they kind of overachieve early on because people think they're going to suck, and then they kind of peter out towards the end of the year, miss the play-in. But overall, it was a positive season of growth for the team, and I think that's probably like kind of like what you're looking for when you're looking at Washington. But I really like Tyus Jones, and I think he's going to be great as a starting point guard and not just a reserve. But I'll take us down to Orlando. And I'm not going to talk about who you want. I'm going to talk about Markelle Fultz, because Markelle is one of my breakout candidates for next season.
Player.
I know, wrong Magic player. I love Markelle. I think he's great. Last year was his kind of first full season outside of the one before 2 hurt seasons in Orlando. Goes to Orlando. His first season, he's pretty healthy. Has 2 seasons he deals with injuries kind of heavily. And then last season, he was back towards a more healthy state of himself. Is one of the best athletes in the league, going coast to coast as a slasher. He'll dunk on you. He'll get steals in the open floor. The shooting is obviously the biggest thing with Markelle's game that kind of has to come along. Like a lot of players that you talk about when you're looking at things to improve, shooting is something that kind of needs to happen. But Markelle has really revived his career from being considered, one of the biggest busts of all time, to coming back and being a really solid starting point guard. I don't think Markelle's an all-star, but it wouldn't shock me next season if he's putting up 17 points, 8 assists, something like that. I think he really has that level of upside. I love Markelle.
Markelle is one of those comeback stories that you didn't really expect, because you just thought that he was gonna, just get out of the league real quick because of everything that happened in Philadelphia. And then when he goes to Orlando, the beginning when he was there, it just felt like it wasn't gonna work. But then he has just really stepped it up recently, and he saved his career. And I think that it's only going to keep on growing from here, because he's athletic and his playmaking is really solid, and his defense, like, just all around, everything is working for him. And the shooting will come, hopefully. He still shoots with a little hitch, and we're not going to go talk about how like static it looks, but that's okay, because you know what, he'll make it work, and I'm excited to see what he has in the future.
He's kind of like the way better version of what people think Killian is. Killian Hayes is a good passer, good defender. Markelle is both of those things, but with the athleticism and some better shooting than Killian. Really is kind of help to an offense. I think he really helps your team and boosts you on the floor. Do you have one last point guard, or do you want to shift to the 2-guard spot?
We can shift to the 2-guard spot, because I know you don't want to talk about the greatest point guard prospect in the history of the NBA in Orlando, and Cole Anthony.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to show Orlando too much love. You don't want to. We don't want to praise
him
too much.
It's okay, but just know that Cole Anthony will, have probably an MVP type season this upcoming year.
Yeah, Cole Anthony, everybody's favorite. I'll let you start off with the 2-guard. Whoever you want to talk about first.
This is going to be a real. I mentioned his name earlier, and I know I said that Washington would have the breakout point guard in Tyus Jones, but I can't help but resist to talk about Jordan Poole revenge tour.
Jordan Poole.
Jordan Poole. What? I saw this quote the other day on a Jordan Poole video, and I really liked it. And it said, "Broken crayons still color."
Yeah.
And you know what? He may be broken right now, but he's out here seeking vengeance, and he will light up the league with 28 points a game this upcoming year. And he is taking yes. He's taking 20 shots a game.
Yep.
It is Jordan Poole's world, and we're just living in it with the way that dude's going to shoot the ball this upcoming year.
Yeah, I've liked what I've seen from him with how he's handled everything that's gone on lately, because Draymond will not stop talking about Jordan Poole. He won't stop talking about what happened with Jordan Poole. Poole is out of Golden State. Draymond now blames him completely for everything that happened last season, has been going back and forth with Anthony Poole, Jordan Poole's father, on Twitter. And clearly, Poole looks like the more mature guy here. He's kind of let it go. Is kind of like sub Instagram story at Draymond from time to time. But JP is just here to hoop. He doesn't want to talk about that. He's here to get buckets. He's here to get the ladies. Jordan Poole's got the Riz, as the kids say.
Yes,
But
he's
JP's
the
out here hooping.
Rizzler.
Yeah,
The Rizzler.
he's the Rizzler. But yeah, he's going to be great buckets wise. The efficiency might not be the best thing you've ever seen. I think the shooting splits could be a little tough to look at times. But he's going to get shots up, and I think he's going to make a lot of them, and is going to make the Warriors regret letting him go, just like they did with Wiseman, who immediately played better after he left. And it just feels like the Warriors don't know how to handle young guys, and other teams do. So JP is going to go to the Wizards, and I really think he's going to ball out.
All-star season coming for Jordan Poole
We'll
this
see.
upcoming
We'll see if the
year.
Wizards are good enough for him to make the All-Star game. But
If he drops 28 points a game, my man is walking into the All-Star game.
yeah, we'll see. I think Bradley Beal averaged 33 for them and didn't make the All-Star game. Or maybe it was 31, but it was a lot, and he did not make the All-Star game. But we'll see from Poole. I love what he's doing. I think he's going to be great. I want to talk about a guy for the Bucks who I think doesn't get talked about enough. I want to talk about MarJon Beauchamp. Second-year guard, was a first-round pick in 2022. Yeah, so he's a second year. But I really like Beauchamp. I think he's very athletic. I think he has a really good work ethic. And the Bucks don't have a great shooting guard spot, whether it's Grayson Allen or it's Pat Connaughton or it's Malik Beasley on the minimum. I think MarJon Beauchamp has the highest ceiling of that group. And I know maybe you didn't expect to talk about him or anything.
Grayson Allen disrespect. Time out.
No, Grayson
Time
Allen's
out.
not good.
Grayson
Man.
Allen
Grayson Allen is not
disrespect
good.
train. We do not
Beauchamp
disrespect
is good.
one of the greatest Duke basketball players of all time, Grayson Allen.
Yeah, he's going in their Hall of Shame for sure. But
Oh my
Beauchamp, I
gosh,
think, is going to be good. I like Beauchamp. I just think he's going to be a nice role player for them, and doesn't really get talked about. He had a pretty good summer league, and I just like what he does. I think he's going to be a important rotation piece for them this year. And compared to what he was last year, that's a breakout season to me.
I think that's a great. You saved the entire take right
that's
there,
good.
saying
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
going to have an important role. He's going to have an important role spot
Yeah,
on
he's
that
not
team.
going to start. I don't think he's going to be a starter, but I think he's going to.
I've never heard. Chris Middleton. I've never heard of him. Like, who
He's a
cares
small
about Chris
forward. Chris
Middleton?
Middleton is a small forward.
Oh my gosh! Stop with the
He
small
plays the
forward
three.
talk. Get out of here. I think he's athletic.
Yep.
I haven't seen much shooting out of him.
No, that needs to be
I-
worked on for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and we talk about the shooting, but that's okay because you know what? Development
Yeah, we don't need
takes
shooting.
time.
This is a
You don't need
non-shooting
shooting.
podcast.
If it's a non-shooting podcast. It doesn't. We don't judge shooting around here.
Yeah, that
All
doesn't
we
matter.
care about is
Ben
athleticism.
Simmons
and
is my
defense.
favorite player of all time.
That's right. That's right. We're the Ben Simmons hype train. But is Kai Soto a shooter?
I mean, yeah, in stretches. But let's
Anyways, back
get
to-
off of Beauchamp, and we'll give you another shooting guard. I thought about talking about Sharpe, but we don't have to talk about Sharpe if you have someone else you want to talk about.
I wanted to. I guess I was thinking, a little bit talking about Max Christie. If you want
Okay, yeah, we're down.
Yeah, I think Max Christie is our guy.
Hmm.
Talk a little bit point guard, shooting guard, combo.
Yeah,
And I'll start it off with Max Christie, his first year, out of Michigan State for the Lakers, played in 42 games.
hmm
And, sometimes he just looked like that JV basketball player that got called up to varsity.
Yep.
And just kind of like goes out there and runs, plays cardio.
hmm
And, if he gets an occasional shot, like he'll take it up and, it's a rare chance it's going to go in.
yeah, it might go in. The
And
crowd
then-
will cheer real loud if it does, type of thing.
Yeah, they're really hype if it goes in.
Yep.
But then he went to the summer league, and he said, "I'm the fifth-year senior at a D1 college
Yep.
that everyone loves," and he showed up and he just balled out. And I think that give it some more time. He's very, very young. Max Christie, this upcoming year might have a bigger role with the Lakers, and I think if he carries over his summer league performances, Max Christie and LeBron will be like a Kyrie LeBron duo, like back in. I can't. Sorry.
Okay.
Max Christie's going to be a great combo to the Lakers lineup. We'll put it that way.
I like the idea of him following the Austin Reeves path, where he gets some minutes this season and makes the most of them, and continues to become more of an important guy. He's going to come off the bench. Like Max Christie isn't going to start for this Lakers team, but I like everything he does. He's a good scorer. He's a pretty good passer for a two guard, and he just works hard out there. He's one of those guys that gives a lot of effort. He clearly cares about being a piece of this Lakers team and being a piece of their future. And I think with him and Reeves, I like the future backcourt there. Probably D'Lo is a guy who's going to be a trade candidate somewhere down the line. We'll see what that ends up happening. But Vincent is there. But I like Christie to get some backcourt minutes and kind of steal those away from some guys that maybe you think would get them going into the year. But Christie to me is a guy who balled out in the summer league and is just an interesting young piece and kind of looks like a steal as a second round pick right now coming into his second year.
You know, a steal is a very good way to describe it because
Yep.
I think that, you know, a lot of people, he went under a lot of people's radar.
Mm-hmm.
And look at what he's turning into. You know, a solid young player here in the NBA.
Yep, was really young coming out of college. And it is raw, but I think the Lakers saw something in him and want to develop him. But before we switch to small forwards, we're going to wrap up this piece of the podcast. So thank you for watching, and we'll be back on Wednesday with the forwards and the guys that you're looking forward to. But you want to tease someone. You'll tease someone before we go.
Staying with the Lakers, maybe we'll talk about Cam Reddish.
Okay, thank you guys for watching. Think about subscribing, and we'll be back on Wednesday.